Previously on Talking Point, I saw the devastating impact diabetes can have on individuals.
My diabetes doctor suspected that I may have a very early stage of kidney failure.
And the cost to all of us.
We are going to see a cost of 2.5 billion from diabetes by 2050.
In this episode, I delve deeper into the fallout of diabetes and find out if we stand a chance at beating this disease.
It's 11 a.m. on a Wednesday, and I'm at NKF's Integrated Renal Center, where patients undergo kidney dialysis.
Murphy, this place is bustling.
Yes, it is. Actually, we are just finishing our morning session, right? And there's so many things to do here.
Dialysis is a procedure to have a person's blood cleaned and filtered, removing waste products and excess fluid. Normally, this is the job of our kidneys, but the patients here can't rely on their bodies to do that. Today, I'm helping Nurse Murphy tend to some patients.
We're going to start ending our patients already. Auntie, dialysis finished already. I'll end you, okay? Okay, so we are going to return all the blood back to the patient.
How long has she been sitting here?
Actually, about 4 hours. Okay, so now I'm going to remove her needle. Mabuk tak? Kaki okay? Okay.
Is she getting up?
Not yet,
Not
because
yet.
she need to press for about 5 to 10 minutes first.
这个是你的。
对。
啊。
拜拜，
安全带啊，安迪，安全带。
安全带啊。
There are so many people here. What are they waiting for? They weren't here before.
So actually, they are the noon patients here. They are coming for the noon dialysis sessions, which is about to commence soon. So we're getting quite busy. Let's go. Okay, so we clean from here. And then we just keep everything nicely.
How much time do you have to turn around the space for the next session?
About 45 to an hour.
Okay.
Because we have so many patients, we actually need to do it one by one quickly so that we can bring the patients in and then we can start them promptly on time.
The pace is frantic because I've heard that every patient wants to be the first one to get started. Because after all, the dialysis process takes up to about 4 hours. So there's a bit of stress on the nurses.
Diabetes is the leading cause of kidney failure in Singapore, accounting for 67% of new cases. Our numbers are so high that globally, this country ranks first for diabetes-induced kidney failure.
We currently have 41 centers. 10 years ago, we only have about 25. And that is where we have to recruit more staff. And the staff is not just nurses. We need more social workers. We need more ground staff to be able to provide a holistic care to our patients.
The manpower shortage is perhaps more acute in the healthcare sector. Then why can't you just buy dialysis machines?
Basically, each machine can serve 6 patients. But at the end of the day, it's not so much the machines, but the care that you provide. Our renal nurses are specialized nurses. They're not general nursing that you can do. It takes about 6 months to train a nurse to handle a patient. So it is more complex than that.
High blood sugar levels, which is one of the characteristics of diabetes, damages the blood vessels, as well as the tiny filaments in the kidney called nephrons. When this happens, the kidney no longer functions properly. But it can take years, so managing the condition correctly may prevent someone from getting to this stage, which makes me wonder, why are we letting our diabetes spiral so out of control? Dr. Suan To has been managing diabetes patients for over 20 years. She may have some answers for me.
In 2022, our National Population Health Survey showed that only 1 in 3 persons with diabetes actually had good control of their diabetes. And worse still, in younger populations, those aged 30 to 39, a vast majority, almost 80% of those with diabetes did not have good control. What it takes to manage the condition actually needs to be very personalized and holistic. And that involves the patient, the person themselves, in partnership with their care team and their care providers.
Studies have shown that barriers to managing diabetes properly include inability to adhere to regular meal timings, limited healthy food options, difficulties in maintaining a physical fitness routine, and forgetting to take medication on time.
Why is self-management so difficult?
Well, Diana, human behaviors are not rational, right? We often struggle, even if we know what we're supposed to do, to practice it consistently day after day. But with the tools that technology offers, it's empowering.
How does the new technology help someone to self-manage diabetes better?
We now have the option of monitors such as these. These are called continuous glucose monitors, or CGM. They are placed on the arm or the tummy. Now, how these work is that there is no needle that stays in your system or your body, but rather it's a tiny little monofilament that is able to measure glucose levels in a space called the interstitial space on a continuous basis. It will then automatically transmit the levels of this glucose and, importantly, the patterns of this glucose to your cell phone or a reader.
CGMs track blood sugar levels 24 hours a day and can transmit these readings every 1 to 15 minutes. This provides plenty of data points showing how the wearer's levels fluctuate throughout the day. I want to see for myself what this device can do, so I got myself fitted with one and wore it for 10 days. The readings were quite eye-opening, even for a non-diabetic like me.
I had Brussels sprouts, which was a little bit oily with lots of garlic in it. And I noticed that my blood sugar levels really spiked. Why did that happen? I mean, it was vegetables, right?
Continuous glucose monitoring, or CGM devices like this, have been on the market for about 2 decades. They help improve self-management of diabetes by providing precise, real-time information of one's blood glucose levels. I got myself fitted with one for 10 days to find out exactly how it works. For this experiment, I've decided to change up my diet by going for high-carb, high-sugar foods.
I'm having an extremely high sugar breakfast. Donut, hash brown, orange juice. It says on the packaging that no sugar added, and bubble tea. Oh, quite nice. I'm enjoying this more than I should.
There were days that I carried on with my workouts after a meal high in carbs and sugar. Ten days later, I make my way to the Singapore General Hospital to get my CGM, or constant glucose monitoring readings, assessed.
Dr. Suresh, what do the results tell you about how my body regulates glucose?
Yeah, so looking at your CGM report, it tells me that you are spending 100% of the time in the optimal range, right? Which is expected of a person with no diabetes. So it tells me that your body's ability to regulate glucose is very good, is normal. If I were to draw this out for you, you can see that on the days when you had food with not much of free sugars in it, like the salad day, the fluctuation in your glucose was very minimal, right? And that's because when you have very little free sugars or very little carbohydrates, it's very easy for the pancreas to deal with it. So if you had, say, bubble tea or you had fruit juice, you would see a rapid rise in glucose just like the first case.
But there was another day when I had Brussels sprouts, which was a little bit oily with lots of garlic in it. And I noticed that my blood sugar levels really spiked. Why did that happen? I mean, it was vegetables, right?
So with that, what you saw is that your sugar was within the range, but it actually stayed on the higher side for longer. So this is the effect of fiber and oil that you're seeing. Whenever there is oil or whenever there is fiber, it slows down the whole process.
The next set of experiments, I had the same breakfast foods. One day I had exercise. What was the impact of the exercise on my glucose levels?
During exercise, your muscles actually eat up glucose. And the good thing is that they do not need insulin to eat up the glucose. So that means even in people with absolutely no insulin production, their glucose will drop when they exercise. In your case, we saw this. Your glucose levels rose up similarly with the meal, but once you started your exercise, it dropped down to normal much faster.
So the lesson is exercise is actually quite critical for someone with diabetes.
With diabetes.
Okay.
Yes, exercise definitely helps manage your sugars better.
How will the results differ in someone who has diabetes?
We can take a look at the picture here. So one of the critical thing was when we looked at the time in range for you, it was 100%. That means 24 hours a day your glucoses were in target. This is a person with diabetes whose HbA1c is 8.3. And if we look at the number of hours, almost 12 hours a day, which is quite important because half the day this person's sugar is high.
What is the difference between blood sugar rising sharply and rising gradually?
Looking at people with diabetes, we definitely have proof that large, sharp fluctuations of glucose, and like in this case, you can see going up from 6 all the way to 20 and then dropping back down to 9. These fluctuations matter. Why do they matter? These has been related to a higher chance of getting heart problems, strokes, and heart attacks.
Besides the foods that we eat, are there other things that may cause our blood sugar levels to spike?
Yes. So one of the common things that we will see is the effect of stress. We see that, for example, athletes who are training for an event, during the training, we find their glucose level drops. But on the day of the event, when they go for the competition, their glucose go up. And that's because they are stressed, right? We can see it in a young person preparing for an exam. One other important thing is sleep. Lack of deep sleep. It could reflect as a higher glucose levels on the next day.
Because my body is producing and using insulin as it should, I need not worry about these fluctuations in my blood sugar level. But a person with diabetes will need to adjust his diet and lifestyle accordingly. Because failing to do so can have some serious complications, from kidney failure to this.
Kidney failure is a serious complication of diabetes that's not well controlled. But there is another consequence of poorly managed diabetes. The term is lower extremity amputation, or LEA. What this means is loss of limbs in the lower half of the body. Diabetes can lead to reduced blood flow and nerve damage. So even a small wound or an ulcer is unable to heal properly. This could lead to infection setting in and spreading. When this happens, you could lose a toe or even an entire leg.
Singapore has one of the highest diabetes-related lower extremity amputation rates in the world. To bring home this point, my producers and I have put together this structure and brought it to Raffles Place Park. Because 1 in 5 residents could be walking around with undiagnosed diabetes. And the later we diagnose, the higher the chance of various complications like limb loss.
So this installation behind us, they represent the number of lower limb amputations related to diabetes in Singapore in a year.
Right.
And the number is 1,500. How does that make you feel?
Well, it's a bit frightening because I gather that as Singapore society, men and women ages, if they are not health conscious on the food they're taking, many of them will be suffering.
It's 1,500 lower limb amputations in a year. How do you feel about this number?
Very sad actually because I'm in the age group where a lot of people, for some reason, we tend to have issue, then we have to go to hospital. So a lot of time it's all due to diabetes.
It's kind of sad that many people lose their limbs because of this disease they get.
1,500. That's actually quite a lot.
You seem quite surprised by that. Why?
Actually, I'm not really familiar with diabetes and all that, so having to see like that quite a big number is actually quite surprising.
You seem rather young to me. Do you think young people like yourself think about diabetes at all, or it's an old people's disease?
I think for people my age, we're not really so much concerned about diabetes right now. So we eat a lot of like ice cream, cafes, chocolates and all that. We tend to really enjoy most of the stuff right now, so we don't really care much about the future and all that.
Did you know that diabetes can lead to lower limb amputations?
Yes, I actually do, because I had a family member with diabetes.
Tell me more.
This family member was my grandfather, which was with me 10 years ago. But after he got diabetes, he also had a few other diseases, so he shortly passed away.
How does that make you feel or look at diabetes differently?
I wish there was a faster way to cure it.
Do you think young people like yourselves are at risk of diabetes?
It's possible because there are a lot of added sugars like fruit juice.
So I feel like a lot of people my age right now, we tend to not care about sugar levels and we just drink a lot of sweet drinks.
Now, knowing the lower limb amputations are related to diabetes, how does that change the way you look at the disease?
I feel like it's definitely a more dire situation that we have to look in.
It's actually kind of terrifying thinking that I could eat this and I'll be one step away from getting diabetes and losing my legs.
It's sad. We can do so much with our limbs and we take it for granted that we are consuming high sugar food.
I'm glad my structure made some impact to raise the level of awareness about diabetes among Singaporeans and the devastating cost if we don't manage it well. But here's the thing. If controlled, people can not only live normal, healthy lives, some can even put their type 2 diabetes into remission. While remission isn't a new concept, it was only in 2021 that international organizations outlined exactly what remission is and how to achieve it. So, how exactly does one go into remission? Have you always been this active?
I haven't been active for the past 5 years. I just turned active again about somewhere at the beginning of last year.
How active were you before and why did you stop?
I was once a triathlete for a couple of years. And when I started my business and I got really busy, then I turned inactive. That's where I started to put on a lot of weight.
How much weight did you put on?
Actually, I put on about 15 to 16 kilos. I wasn't really taking care of my health. And what happened was that I get my blood work done at a nearby clinic. That's where I found out that I was diagnosed with diabetes 1 week just before I turned 41.
How did that make you feel?
To be honest, I felt that it shouldn't be happening to me. I went to see my doctor. Some of the treatment that she has prescribed was, number one, to put me on a stronger medication right at the beginning so that I can bring down my blood glucose levels first, and also to put me on a regime where I have constant communication with a nutritionist, and she's seeing what I'm eating. I'm sending pictures of what I'm eating on a daily basis, and she's constantly giving me feedback.
It's like a food diary.
Yes. It is a food diary. So we do that and she gives me feedback, and while doing that, we also look at my blood glucose levels after every meal to see what is working and what's not working for me.
Okay.
So that was what happened in the first month, and then I came back for my follow-up appointment. So then we did another round of blood tests. So that's where she actually told me that I have a good chance of remission if I work on a few areas of my health and lifestyle. That's why I cycle more, I run more now, just to be more active and also to burn off all the excess sugar that's within the blood. Yeah.
When the doctor told you about remission, how did you feel?
Of course, I'm happy to hear that.
It sounds like you have to be quite strict.
I do have to make a big shift from the typical Asian diet to something that is more customized. So, number one was to switch all my carb sources to simple carbs to complex carbs. So that was one very big change for me. I had to be educated in the way I eat, and this involves food sequencing. That means to say we line our stomach with fiber first, that means taking the vegetables first, followed by protein. That means the meat that we take, that will be the second. At the last, we take our carbohydrates, and this will help to reduce or to lower the spike in blood sugar.
Some people may say, why so difficult, all these lifestyle changes? Because if you just whack the medication, you can control the blood sugar levels. Why not do that?
If let's say you just take the medication and you're not making a shift in your lifestyle, then you will just be reliant on the medication for a very long time. Or it might be a long-term problem.
Do you think it's worth it?
I think it's worth it. Yeah. End of the day, when I achieve remission, I lower the risk of heart diseases. I get away from possibly having dialysis, living longer. I think it's worth it.
Diabetes remission is achieved when a person's blood sugar level returns to less than 6.5% for 3 months without the use of diabetes medication. At the point of diagnosis, Brandon's levels stood at 10.8%. But within 4 months, he'd managed to bring his levels down to just around 6.5%. Being in remission isn't a cure. Brandon will have to press on with his diet and lifestyle if he wants to maintain his targeted blood sugar levels without the use of medication. So while a doctor is the best person to help people with diabetes on their journey to good health, it does make sense to say that eating well, maintaining a healthy weight, and leading an active lifestyle is something we could all benefit from.